And we're live. Welcome to the OUYACast, episode 29, recorded on Sunday, September 7th, 2014. Your weekly source for the latest news, games, and hacks for OUYAns everywhere. I'm Brandon from OUYACentral.tv.
And I'm Steve from OUYABrew.com. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 29. Almost at number 30.
Oh
Looking
yeah.
forward to that.
Oh yeah.
It
And
never amazes me. It never ceases to amaze me. Every day that we do one of these, it's just that much closer. Pretty soon it'll be 50 and 100, and
oh yeah.
oh man, it's gonna be good stuff.
Oh yeah. It and well, I don't know about we're hoping for 50, but in recent rumor news, there's Ouya's in talks with being acquired by several companies from talks from China and also here in the U.S., Google and Amazon. When I saw that, I was quite shocked, and in a way, I think it could be a good thing, and at the same time, it could be a bad thing because who knows what whoever buys them, what they'll do with them. Because I know they said that they want them for not only for the hardware but also for their team, which they have Bob Mills, Jared Yeager, Matt, Alex from the development side. They also have Kelly, Santiago. I mean, I'm excited and I'm kind of scared at the same time.
Well, I mean, here's my take on it is, rumors are rumors for a reason, right? They're unconfirmed. Nobody knows for sure if it's really happening. Um, it's kind of going to be one of those things where if it's true and they are going to get bought out by somebody, um, it definitely puts the future of Ouya in question as far as will they continue to build it, will they contain it. One thing that we had mentioned previously on our coverage about this was simply that the team is what makes Ouya amazing. I mean, we've had so much contact with the Ouya team. They're so into helping developers get their product out there. The
Right,
community is phenomenal, and I really truly challenge you to find another game console that has as much of a support structure and as much of a more personal relationship than Ouya and their staff have with the community. And I feel like if you sell that off to somebody, they're not going to give two craps about
Yeah.
everybody, and they're just going to kind of treat it like a product, and that would be just unfortunate. I think that Ouya would find itself, at least what it is now, probably completely decimated if that kind of support, that kind of interaction was dropped. That's my opinion.
right. I mean, yeah, who knows? I mean, they could be in talks, but at the same time, they might be just inquiring and trying to feel out the level playing field to see how things roll, how things end up. I was thinking, hey, what they should do is just do another Kickstarter.
I was gonna say, I was thinking the same thing just now. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting too, because think about like you said about the size and such. I was thinking about how it's funny how the press have loved to say, oh, the Ouya is dead and it sucks and it didn't live up to all the expectations, and no one's buying yachts with the money they made from Ouya and stuff. But that's like, they're still going, and there's like lots of great games, not just from small developers, but big developers are still porting games over, and so it's just, I'm like, no one would be doing that if it was like some sort of, you know, indie black hole, which
right,
the media would love to paint it as, because it's more exciting to say it's dead than to say it's doing okay or it's doing good, and but not necessarily making millionaires overnight.
right. But
Absolutely.
I mean, and even though like there's rumors out there, Ouya still coming out with. They just posted a YouTube video of a sneak peek of behind the curtain of like the little features that they're adding to the Discover store, and
Mm-hmm.
and that gives us a little hope.
Absolutely.
'Cause-
No, yeah, they wouldn't be doing the. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. If it was dead, right? Like
yeah,
some people would love to love to tout, right, and say, oh,
right,
this is the terrible sales figures or whatever they're trying to say. It's like, no, they can't be doing that bad if they're still growing and still developing and it's still.
right. Yeah, I mean they went to PAX and they were showing off some games. I
Mhm.
mean, I think it just something happened, or I don't know. I guess the media, there wasn't no news in the media, so they just came out with this rumor, maybe. But
Well, you never know. I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing is that's why it's called rumor. Like I said, I mean,
Mhm.
until the Ouya themselves come out and say yes or no, the only thing that I would say is a little bit eyebrow raising is that Ouya hasn't even said no, that's not true. So maybe there is some truth in it,
Right.
but you
yeah,
know,
Um, yeah, that's true. And to your point too about the personal thing, I totally agree. I mean, I've developed for basically every platform out there. Aside from the larger console system, Ouya is basically my first real diving into console space. But in terms of other development platforms, including Amazon and such, yeah, I mean, I've been working very closely with Tim from Ouya because the game we worked on, Be Active, was a port from HTML5, and so we're still working through some of that stuff. But the fact is that I would never get anything like that from any other development platform in terms of being able to really work one on one with someone directly there.
yeah.
It's
Ouya
not
really,
yeah,
yeah,
it's not like a 15-minute call. We're talking, I mean, we've been on Skype for an hour going through over stuff, and then even just continue to chat throughout the week, in some of our previous explorations and such. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive.
um,
there's one perfect example of Ouya saying that they love indie devs.
exactly. And just to catch everybody else up, because usually we would introduce you when we start talking about your game, which we are going to in just a sec. But so with us today, we do have Caleb, who is the developer of Be Active on the Ouya. And that, just in case you hear chiming in and you don't see the video where it shows the square of who's talking, that's who's talking. Just because I know there's three voices now, so some people are probably like, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I guess I jumped the gun there. Sorry about that.
No, no, no. Please do, please do. I just want everybody to know who is talking. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna see. We'll see what happens with Ouya. I mean, if it's the money that they're looking for, I don't. Maybe the extra, step of releasing the next generation of Ouya console will do it. Maybe they do need another Kickstarter. Maybe, I mean, who knows? I don't know what would provoke them into trying to sell off what they, you know, in my opinion, they've really fought
Right.
hard to make a viable platform out of, and then just to give it away. I think it's too early. I think there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of development, a lot of opportunity that can come out of the Ouya, and a lot more developers that can come up and make something of themselves. And I would just really hate to see this fall into the hands of somebody who just doesn't have the passion and the enthusiasm that the Ouya team does, especially this early on in the game. I feel like that would just that'd be a shame.
Right. Right. Yeah. But only time will tell, I guess. We'll
Mhm.
see what happens.
But on to more positive news, I hear we have a couple sales this week. Get some
Yeah.
cheap games.
Yep. We have Shadow Blade for 50% off. It's for
Woo.
$2.50 until September 8th. I think it might be September 9th because I think on one of their Twitter posts, I think it said the 9th. And also we have The Adventures of Chris,
Yeah.
50% off, which is a dollar.
Actually, I bought that one before. That's a good game.
Yeah, I've heard people mention that they bought them when they weren't on sale, and that they're both good games. And
Mm.
they have,
Shadow Blade is an awesome game. It reminds me of Ninja Gaiden. I think that's the one that,
Mm.
right?
if I'm thinking of the right game, because it's kind of like that platform to platform jumping thing. Is that the one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the more
yeah,
recent one, that Mark of the Ninja, is kind of
yeah,
run through that a little too.
yeah.
Huh.
But and well, I guess in other news, I'm surprised that I was able to find out these other news that's coming out because we've been at PAX busy showing off games, but they recently post on Twitter that Age of Zombies is coming up with a new content update coming soon. So that was cool.
Heck yeah.
That's a pretty good game that's been out on Android and other devices, but I was really excited when it came to Ouya, when they announced when the Mojo the Ouya Everywhere came out. That game was released, and good to see that new content's coming to that one. And also on Facebook, I saw that people were asking about Chronoblade, which I've been wondering for a long time too. And they said that Chronoblade is still in the works for Ouya. So that's another great game that I can't wait to eventually come out with full release. And if anybody's wondering what I'm talking about, let me see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, Chronoblade was one of the original Ouya titles that was released, and it's just been in demo mode like ever since. I mean, it's never.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I've played the demo before, but I haven't really followed it for a while. So is it not officially released? Is the idea?
Right. It's not officially released, and we just kind of assumed that it was dead in the water. You know, it was just kind of not. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Well, you find it.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the demo. I don't know how long it's been in demo mode, but I guess hey, it's good to hear that they're still working on it. And there's another example if they say that they're still working on it, so it's still gonna come out for release. So yeah, this is gonna be one good game that I'm definitely gonna pick up.
Yeah, if they came out with a full version of that, I would get it too. It's very fast paced. I like the the playability, and I've said before, just one of the big things for me in playing any game, whether it be on Ouya or PlayStation or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's how smooth the game plays. It's how it feels, right? Because it doesn't matter if you've got the best graphic game on Ouya. If it plays like crap, then it's gonna, not. It's just not gonna be good. So this game is very smooth, good graphics. It plays really well and fun, a lot of fun. I like that game a lot.
Oh yeah.
I just realized I've said the word crap 2 times. Now that's 3. I'm gonna see how many times I can say it in this OUYAcast. I'm messing with you guys. So, shall we get to our official interview then?
Yeah, well, I guess that's enough Ouya news for now.
So once again, we do have Caleb, who is a developer of Be Active on the Ouya. Caleb, welcome, first of all. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Be Active.
Well, it's cool. So basically what it was is it's a game. It's for free, totally free. There's no in-app purchase or anything. And so the way the game came about was essentially that my wife, who works at a place called Aveda, they were doing a sort of special weekend. They were looking to raise donations for honeybees, essentially, which is dealing with the fact that there's this thing called colony collapse disorder, which has kind of been causing a lot of colonies to, as it sounds, collapse, and people and scientists don't really understand why it's happening. So there's been some concern about that as far as like what's going on. Is it something humans are doing in terms of maybe pesticides, or is it something else? And so so my wife was doing this thing, and she said, it'd be really great if we had a game that we could sort of give away as something to people who make a donation. And I had about a week or so to make the game, and so I was like, okay, well, this is great. My wife is asking me to make a game, so okay, this is super cool. So I decided, I was like, okay, what can I do? And the funny thing is, as much as it would be associated with, like, I can see people saying it's like a Flappy Bird game, which I'm not even really a big fan of the game Flappy Bird, but what I was actually inspired more by was Jetpack Joyride and Zombie Tsunami, which is where I got the kind of group mentality, which is basically it's an endless runner where you're basically a horde of zombies, and as long as at least one zombie lives, you keep playing. Whereas traditional endless runners, one kill and you're dead. That's it.
Right.
So this gave you that idea that it's essentially a mob of honeybees, creating a swarm, and really the pollution clouds that are coming at you are essentially like the zappers from Jetpack Joyride, but just obviously a little more organic since they're not zappers. So that was it. So I built the game, and it's on a bunch of different platforms. Ouya was actually the last platform I brought it to. At the time, I was focusing on iOS, Android, and then I did Windows 8, Windows Phone. Did a lot of different platforms. But I had, because I had this game, and I built it in HTML5 using the Construct 2 game engine, because I'm actually not a programmer. So that was a big, kind of one of the barriers, because I've messed with Unity and some other programs, but and I work with like my partner, who is full-fledged programmer, works with Unity. This was the kind of game that I was able to generate myself with this tool called Construct 2, and so I had seen though that there was a way of, well, I looked into being able to bring it over to the Ouya, but I wasn't sure how feasible it would be. But then I discovered there's a thing called Cocoon.js, which is a HTML5 wrapper, if you will, for HTML5 games. So it allows you basically take your basically web game, and then wrap it into for iOS, for Android, and I think even maybe Windows Phone, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yes.
definitely Android and iOS. And those, so that was really. But then I realized that they had Ouya as an option, which was like, well, that's awesome. And I had known about it for a while, but in the past it had been a little on the buggy side. And yeah, this is the website. Yeah, the Cocoon.js is made by the guys from Ludi.com, and so. I tried it out and I had really good results with it. It was actually turned out to do really good. By the time I came along the scene, it was actually performing pretty well. So I found it to be really nice. The only problem I ran into trouble with in terms of like my next game, which was not going to be a totally free game, but more like a trial type of game, is that the in-app purchase system is not set up with this technology, this Cocoon.js program. So I was unable to basically use it to make like my next game. And then I've actually been working with Tim, as I mentioned before. He's been great in order for us to look at defining a solution using Chromium, which is basically Google made the actual Chrome browser open source. And so Chromium is basically the engine behind Chrome. But at this point, it's heavy duty though, right? It's like, I had to get a Ubuntu Linux setup going on, and then I had this huge image that Tim got me set up with, and we tried some things, and it's definitely, it's just something that takes a lot of trial and error to test and get it to work. But essentially, that will be a solution that Tim, who works with Ouya, is going to be able to be sort of the HTML5 solution for a lot of games, because right now there really isn't a good path to Ouya with HTML5. There's tons with like other platforms. Obviously, like Unity and stuff is a fantastic. They got lots of support there. So yeah. But I'm looking forward to it because it'd really be great. If Ouya is looking for more games, and they want to see more stuff get ported over, really bringing in HTML5 support will open up a lot of doors for that. Because there's a lot of great developers out there making cool stuff in that space.
Right.
So yeah. And then, so basically, yeah, I launched it, and I was very pleased to see it got 4 out of 5 stars. Because I know I've played plenty of games that and it's a simple game. It's not like this game goes on for it's like super compelling. But the next app I was working on, which I would like to still do, is and I might just end up making it a free one, but I wanted to use it as a way of testing the monetization through a donation option. I was calling it Controller Quest, which is really at its core was going to be essentially a way for you to test your Ouya controller to make sure all the buttons are working properly, and just to basically make anybody who's got an Ouya be able to load it, more like a utility. But I wanted to add some gamification elements to it, sort of make it just have fun with it.
Right.
At the end of the day, that it was really the intent is to make it, because when I first bought my Ouya, I had 2 controllers. I bought the one that came with it, and I got mine through Best Buy. And when I got the second controller, I bought that one at the same time. And what I had realized is, both of them the controllers were a little sketchy, and I ultimately had to return both of them. But what the funny thing is one of the 2 controllers, which I thought was good, turns out that the left analog trigger was not even, I think it was basically dead or highly unresponsive. And because I don't play any games that have that particular, I wasn't really playing a game that used that button, I didn't know, and I wouldn't have known.
Wow.
And I just managed to just kind of figure it out one time, and I forgot how I even came across it, but that's where I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a utility that just lets you easily test all your controls, make sure everything's zeroing out correctly, your analog joysticks are moving correctly, and all that. So, yeah, so that was basically my second. That's like my second venture, because once I got the controller stuff all wired up nicely, and I was able to see basically everything on the screen would move around, with your analog, and all the buttons would respond accordingly. So it looked pretty nice, but then that's when I started running into the wall of the Cocoon.js not working, and I reached out to the developers there, because I'm like, look, you guys are like 90% there. It's like all you have to do is essentially work out the ways of connecting to the App Store, sort of the marketplace sort of thing with Ouya, but they have absolutely no interest or plans apparently in adding that. So
Okay.
it brought us back to looking at probably Chromium.
Yeah,
That's
I saw.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I saw that this game is available on every platform, pretty mobile platform out there. I downloaded it on my Windows phone.
Oh, cool,
I
yeah.
tried it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and that's the other thing too. So I think now, are you running 8.0 or 8.1?
8.1.
Okay, cool. I think that should work pretty good, but I know I had some issues with 8.0 and 8.1. I mean, with Construct and just the way it works.
Right.
You basically export an actual Visual Studio project, and then you basically compile it from there. And sometimes the audio was a little on the quirky side, especially with 8.0. It was really kind of a funky hack you had to come up with it. But thankfully, 8.1's really been nice because they really fully incorporated WebGL. Which is really great for HTML5 developers, because in the past there was a thing called PhoneGap and it's still around. I mean, it's totally viable. But the thing is that in the past it was always known to suck for games, because essentially without WebGL support, your games would run like crap. Is what it really came down to. And iOS 8 is actually the last holdout for that. Android's had it for a while. Windows Phone 8.1 incorporates it now, and so with iOS 8, it's really going to finally make PhoneGap actually really a great option again. So who knows? Maybe there's a way to get PhoneGap or something. I keep kind of checking in with Tim now and then to see if there's what other solutions there might be out there. Because again, I was extremely pleased with the results of this. The performance, like the frame rate was great. In fact, I had better luck with music and audio than I have with other mobile platforms. Even the looping music was a big one, because some of the versions you've had in the past that were you'd upload a WAV file, but it would compress it to OGG or MP3 and such accordingly, and you could hear the little hiccup sometimes with the music looping, right? It wasn't seamless, even though the music was seamless. It's just that the way they would compress it would change that. So so again, the way Cocoon.js managed to wrap it up for Ouya, it's like the music's seamless and the frame rates are really good. So I was really pleased with that.
No, it seemed to me like that might even be the way to go. I mean, I know a lot of people use Unity, for the 3D games, but if you're making a 2D game, why not, make it in HTML5 and then just wrap it for whatever game?
Oh yeah, I mean it's pretty incredible, and that's the thing. Construct 2 if you look at all the platforms on our website, if you go to Part 12 Studios, it's like our products thing. You'll see I've got a lot of platforms, and it was easy. I mean, it's on Congregate, it's on Google App Store, Windows Phone, Windows 8. It was really, sure, there's a few little things you need to know here and there between the different platforms, but it's nothing more than just basically spending a little bit of time just understanding maybe what subtle differences there are, and so it's great. This particular version, I was actually working on the second version of this, an update. It was a little bit better because when I first published this game, literally the day that my app got submitted and approved and stuff, they actually made an update to, to Cocoon.js. And what ended up happening was there was a problem with the button pressing. Essentially, I couldn't program it to recognize on press only that is the button down or is it not. And as simple as this sounds in terms of differences, it created a lot of headaches for logic, because guess what happens when you press O to start? You're also now pressing the button at a millisecond later after the game starts, and you're basically skipping the tutorial. You're just doing all kinds of stuff. It just created a lot of problems because you have to put all these sort of pauses, like, okay, make sure that they let go of the button and then press it down again. So it was a little bit of a hassle, but then again, the next day is like, oh, they fixed that. Well, if I had known that was happening, I could have held off a day and basically had everything working, like the tutorials and everything, and as it used to, or as it does, as you'll see in like other versions.
Right.
But no, it's been great. It's like, again, there's just something about the Ouya that I've just liked as far as just wanting to get something out there. As soon as it came out, and as soon as I bought one, I wanted to do it. But at that time, I don't think I was even using Construct 2 at the time. So it just seemed like, other than working through my partner to develop a game with Unity, it was just not looking like a likely situation. In fact, that's what I was originally doing, was going to make that controller test program with Unity. And we're going to do it that way, but and maybe make like a 3D controller and maybe do a little bit more like that. But my partner got busy with some other stuff, so it's like, well, I could just make a 2D version of it. And I actually should pull up the link real fast here.
I could see a controller app. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
Like have like little mini games that test all the functions of your controller.
Exactly, and if you have a Ouya controller hooked up to a PC, you can actually play this. I'll put a link in here. But it is literally set up to require a Ouya controller to be connected to your Chrome browser PC, paired off however you got it done, however you have it. But it will respond, and I believe this version is still a good one. It was something that happened. I did one of the later builds, because officially Construct 2 only supports the Xbox 360 controller, and one of the things I learned very quickly was the mapping is not the same. So
Okay.
at first I got it working 100% perfect with the Xbox 360 controller, and that was great. But then as soon as you take a Ouya controller and try to do the same stuff, buttons just don't line up correctly. There's a different order of buttons. And I got it working mostly, but it was a little quirky at one point. But I think I first had it perfected just about, and then again that's where I sort of hit the wall with the in-app purchase stuff. Like I thought, I'll make the app totally free, but why not put a little donate feature in there just to test it out? And if anyone wants to give us a couple bucks for having made it for them, then cool. Otherwise, enjoy.
All right. Yeah, I've been playing around with the Construct too, and there's like a Flatbird demo
Yeah.
example, and I synced my Ouya controller through Bluetooth, and I actually changed, like, instead of clicking, you just went to control gamepad and press O, and I hit the little run, and I'm able to play the little demo with my Ouya controller on my computer.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it really is it's a great engine. I really enjoy working with it, and it's especially because it's just, I don't know, I've tried learning, it's like learning Unity and programming and coding and stuff like that. It's like I realize it, I could do it if I really want to, but I just don't enjoy it. I'm not having fun doing it, and I find myself going at such a slow pace. But then when I got into Construct 2, and before that I was using one called Game Salad, which again, this killed me with them. Like, why aren't you supporting the Ouya? Because I was able to even build apps, with this other game engine which supported Android, and run the APK on my Ouya. Like, all they were lacking was a joystick. I was like, what else? I mean, I know, and of course, in-app purchases and stuff would be another important part, but it just seems like anymore most of these app stores all basically do the same thing. Like, it's not that different. Sure, they got their own little protocols and whatever, but at the end of the day, you're still just making a call to their site. They're giving you these confirmations and so forth. So none of it's that revolutionary in terms of and radically different. So, and they've done it for other platforms. So yeah, so I've been a big advocate for these sort of non-code based engines to really support the Ouya, because I just feel like it's a perfect match. And I've even talked to the guys at Ouya, informally, like through some of the chats, like, you guys need to basically make a Ouya first game, game maker sort of package, right? Like, buy an Ouya that comes with like a Construct 2 or something, that whatever technology that would work, that would really allow anyone to be able to make video games.
Right.
And that would be really the selling point there. It's not about trying to sell it to coders. It's trying to sell it to people who don't necessarily know how to program. But look at this. This game right here was done without any actual programming experience required, and it's there.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
So yeah.
So speaking of this game here, and I noticed that one of the things is when you die or you restart, it shows some facts, I guess, about honeybees. Where did all that come from? Was that your wife, you said, that works there?
She did the homework on that part, and I basically had to and she set me up with the facts, and I just put them in there, and it's so funny because it's so cool. It's like one of the things that's funny is, like, you do these games, and even when I made this game, I learned so much that things I didn't do as well with this particular game but like when I first did, because the fonts, for example, were one of the mistakes I had made was I used this thing called Sprite font. It was originally done, and it was a standard Sprite-looking font that Construct 2 provided, and it was okay, but the spacing was really bad, and it wasn't very customizable, and there really wasn't a way to swap it out with another graphic, even though you could technically do it, but you'd have to find another sprite sheet that fit perfectly. Like, it would just be so tedious and time-consuming to sit there and go in there and, edit this this PNG file with this other one. So then I discovered after I made this game, for the first time of it, there was one called Sprite Font Plus, which was basically someone had taken the original and kind of hacked it and basically made it do all the stuff that you want it to be able to do. And there's this program called Give Your Fonts Mono, which basically takes fonts you can load up and export them as a sprite sheet, where it takes all the font, and this is any font you can load, which is what's so cool. So now you could do, it doesn't have to be like, I went with obviously with a sort of pixel retro look of this one, but I started using it in some of my other games that were using much more stylized fonts, and it was really great. And but yeah, I actually went back into this game and kind of got the whole thing with that other sprite font system and replaced it with this new one, which is what is in the version here. Which is the text is very readable. It's very but the previous one was bad, and and so. It's always interesting how, as you kind of face a new challenge, you learn how to do something you didn't know how to do before, or learn how to do something better that you did before. So that's always been interesting about, like all this, and that's the thing. Like this version, I mean, like ideally, yeah, like there's a little bug. It looks like look at the guy got stuck there. But yeah, so it was really fun. So the big thing we're looking at now is because again with HTML5 in games, I'm basically on hold until Tim has some bandwidth, and I'm gonna keep checking in with him to see what they can come up with, because I know it'll really fix a lot of problems for a lot of people. Because right now, again, there really is no path, even as an HTML5 programmer who wants to make games for the Ouya, there is no way to do it effectively. Not without, again, getting into Chromium and stuff, which I was reading a blog post by someone who was basically in my same shoes, but even it's just coming as an HTML5 programmer, and he was looking into Chromium, and it takes a lot of know-how, and obviously the guys over at Ouya are pretty brilliant. So Tim and those other guys, they know how to make that stuff happen. But for a guy like me who's not really a programmer, it's too much. So we're looking at another game we're working on a Kickstarter for called Road Defender. And I was actually really excited because when I saw I don't know if you guys have seen the new Mad Max Fury Road trailer.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But so this game is a game that we've been wanting to make for a long time, and it's called Road Defender, and it's basically inspired by the tanker chase scene at the end of The Road Warrior, where Mel Gibson's riding this 18-wheeler down a highway and being chased by a bunch of bad guys. And what it really came down to was being essentially, imagine a tower defense game in the form of a chase scene. And the towers are essentially, and the slots are all managed on the back of vehicles. So you have, you start out with just like a tanker, but then you get like a school bus, you can get a bread truck, UPS truck, all kinds. And what happens is you grow this convoy that you're looking at from the perspective of a gyrocopter. You're basically commanding the fleet, if you will. So what's interesting is the fact that it's going to be a chase scene, but it's a tower defense game. But what's interesting is because the vehicles are actually on wheels and they're not stationary, you also can change the actual formation, if you will, of your convoy to help protect against the enemy. So
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm a big fan of tower defense games, but I mean, from everything I've ever seen and everyone I've ever played, they're all basically the same. It's a static environment. The towers stay where they are. The enemy kind of crosses the screen for often no real reason other than just to get across the screen. So in this case, the enemies are trying to actually give to the drivers to kill the drivers to stop the vehicles and to take the gas. Is essentially what it comes down to. So I was going to try and do it with the free the funds thing. I was trying to get a Kickstarter going in time, but I just realized that when I saw the Mad Max trailer, I knew the movie was coming, but when I saw how awesome it was, I realized I need to make this game. Like, this just needs to get made. And I need to use Kickstarter because we're independent developers, but we do work for hire stuff, and unfortunately it's the problem with us is we gotta pay the bills and stuff, and so it's hard to just have enough money socked away to just stop taking on any other client work and really make this game happen. So we've been doing some prototyping and some experimenting since essentially I'd say I don't know, it was I guess early August, I suppose, when we really started. And it's roaddefender.com is our website now, and that's what we've got set up as sort of our go-to place for the game. But yeah, we've been working on videos and kind of getting some stuff on YouTube to kind of show our progress. And upcoming pretty soon is actually the Boston Festival of Indie Games, which is happening September 13th. And I'm here. I'm basically just a little south of Boston. And so I'm really looking forward to it. We'll have a table there and just kind of be basically an opportunity to kind of share about the game. And although the demo itself won't be all that playable, which is kind of a bummer, but we just, it just wasn't enough time to really get things where we wanted them to be. But yeah, so it's so pretty excited about that. So I've been working on the trailer footage, and I actually got myself the guy who lives down the street from me owns these two big, like, I don't know, they're basically diesel-sized military trucks, right? They're huge. And I mean, the wheels are like 3 or 4 feet high. They're massive, and it's so I actually he's got them up on his front yard for sale, right? And I'm like, oh man, I should see if this guy would let me like get up there and film me, like grabbing doing like those sort of like action shots, right? Like grab the steering wheel, grab engaging the gears, pressing on the throttle, and doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I got a gas mask, and I got some some old some knee pads and skateboard gear and all this other stuff. So I kind of rigged up some sort of like black leather outfit to film myself riding this thing, and had a friend of mine, one of the 3D artists, is working with us on this film it. So it was all really, all very ghetto, but it's kind of fun because the VHS tape that, or the I used a DVD recorder, which actually one of those older ones actually burns to a DVD, but it's standard definition, so it looks really bad compared to obviously what we're used to seeing now, even on our phones, right, in terms of resolution. But I think that it really almost has a nice a VHS quality to it. So one of the things about this game's setting is actually it's the year 1997, right? So it's actually, or 1996 actually, and so we're actually taking it sort of as from an 80s perspective, looking at the future. So this game is, we're at this point we're targeting PC just because it'll be easy to kind of go for that platform, but we're absolutely looking to take this to Ouya as well, because there's really nothing about it that would be inhibitive to play that way. But we're also looking at exploring Oculus Rift support, so that would be one of the stretch goals down the road as well. Because essentially you are put in the seat of an actual gyrocopter, so you're looking around from the gyrocopter perspective. So really, to add Oculus Rift support would not be that difficult because you're just the camera inside the helicopter. So yeah, so that would
be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty, and I am excited about that. So I'm actually hoping that maybe at some point, once we get our stuff a little more together, I can maybe perhaps just reach out to the Ouya folks directly. And just see what they can do for, because the free the funds thing's gone and everything, but it's not like they ran out of money. It's just a question of they had to have an end date for the for the program.
Right. And I know they've been in talks, like like people ask them, are they going to do it again, and they really had no comment, but they might come out with it again.
I don't mean to blow the lid off of anything for them, but there's previous games in the past they've just basically funded because someone talked to them and they liked it. So there are no set rules. That if someone's got something that's valid and they feel there's value in it, I think it's just a question of just talking to them, which is what's great about these guys, right? I mean, would Sony do that? What I'm saying? Would Nintendo? No, they're really they got their channels, So I think that's again one of the great things that really does make the Ouya stand out, and that's why I really want to support that platform, and I think that we'll be able to do. And again, the Kickstarter we're going for, probably do it sometime in October. I think at this point we're just trying to get sort of the vision together. We really have to, as a lot of Kickstarters, you have to have a playable demo, not necessarily even playable for the public, but at least really showing the game in action. And I wish it were easy. I wish it's so tough. Maybe once upon a time, right in the early days of Kickstarter. That would be more possible, but yeah, these days I feel like it'd be just more risky for us to try to pitch the game just based on our ideas and not show something tangible that they can really interact with.
Right.
So we're doing our best to put that together, but at the same time, that's always the catch-22, right? You can't exactly make the game without the money, without knowing you can just work without any distractions and hire the people that need to be hired to actually spend the time that's needed to make it. So it's exciting though. I'm really glad that we have a really great developer who's helping us in Unity. And what's so cool is like this guy I've known him from the past. We've worked with him before, but it turns out he'd actually done a project recently for another company that was actually an Android-based Unity game that was a race game. So I was like, oh my gosh, dude, you've got like so much of the knowledge you would need to know to handle a game like this. So it was a really, really serendipitous sort of moment to reconnect with him, for actually not even for this reason. It was actually hiring him to help us with another project. But I was like, oh wait a minute, we're doing this game, and it's like
right.
Peanut butter and chocolate. Suddenly, I was like, this is awesome. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to really get a team together, and that's important.
Yeah, and again, if you go to roaddefender.com, that's the website we've created at this point. And now, of course, Parto Studios has partostudios.com is our actual website that shows other stuff. But yeah, Road Defender is really going to be kind of where we keep all of our news, and we got a newsletter and stuff. Boston Fig, which is the Festival of Indie Games, as it's called in short, is going to be a really great chance to just get some people's feedback. Because that's the thing is, like, everyone I tell about this game, I feel is really like, oh wow, I get it. And even people who don't necessarily like tower defense games, which is also kind of cool, right? Because it's like, I love tower defense games, but I've talked to people who love it. I've been working with some really great guys that actually have a lot of real solid Kickstarter history and experience, and they've been kind of helping mentor me on some of the things I need to be doing for for the Kickstarter, right? In terms of like how do you start it, how do you manage it, and how do you end it. And it is a lot. It's a lot of information to take in. There's like so much stuff as far as I kind of get it now. I like why people are like saying after 30 days of doing a Kickstarter, you're spent. It's like okay, because you know they on one hand like well once you get it launched, it's like there's not that much. But yeah, it's like you've just got to constantly really work hard to get the word out, and that's always the challenge anymore. You know, especially with indies, right? It's like the best game in the world, but if no one knows it exists, then you know nothing's going to happen. It'll get buried.
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have like Construct 2 tutorial somewhere in Boston that you taught?
I did a class actually back in I guess it was also August. Or was it August or July? I can't remember now. But it was I gave a class on Construct 2. It was over at the Microsoft in Cambridge. They have it, and they do a lot of it's really great. The Microsoft guys, they actually loan out their offices and stuff for local events, and so they're real supportive with indies, which is again, Microsoft's really great in that respect. I mean, fortunately, we live in an area because I live near Boston. You know, obviously we have a kind of a hub here, right? Not every city is like that, of course, but you know, I just got to say that they've also been really great for indies, and just I think they've when Windows 8 first came out, they actually had a program where there was like literally like if you can get an app published on the App Store, you will get basically a Samsung Slate, which is like it's still pretty expensive, but it's like it's like a third, and it wasn't like you have a chance to win. You know, it's like no, you get a computer. It's like whoa, that's awesome. Yeah. But doing that kind of stuff, and they even gave you like when the app was I think you got qualified for basically like at least it was like 2 or 3 hours of essentially one-on-one help if getting your app to their store. So it's just again it's just great to see companies that are willing to invest that time and money into helping people succeed and get things done.
Right.
I've really felt like that's because it's a smaller market than iOS and it's even Android and stuff. But we've launched games on that, and we found that sometimes being the biggest isn't necessarily the best. Sure, the ceiling might be higher if you make it really big, but the gap is widening so much between I feel like the haves and the have-nots when it comes to the mobile space. In terms of really, it's either you make ridiculous amounts of money and you get a huge amount of visuals and like the press and everything, or because what was the statistic? There was like 80% of the iOS apps are making 3% of revenue. So, and that was a couple of years ago. I'm sure it's not any better. If not, if anything, it's worse, right? And then top 20% are basically making, and it breaks out a little bit more, right? But basically, yeah, if there's 80% of the developers they're just making chicken scratch, and it's because there's so much out there, and so difficult to get that visibility and stuff. So, but again, it's like shows like this, of course, and is also tremendously helpful to help indies get our stories out, right? To be able to reach a community and. And the game community is so interesting in terms of how it's grown and then how it's sort of matured as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of important to get your story out there too. I mean, we see games as it, and I'm not speaking for everybody, of course, but I know I personally am guilty of seeing games as just a disposable thing. Like, okay, let me try this game out for half a second. Oh, I don't like this game. It's gone. Let me try the next one out. And so we get this very almost like we feel like games are just kind of there to be used, tossed away. And it's like you don't really understand how much goes into this process and how much developers put their lives on hold and put their resources into developing these type of games for us. And when you have a little bit more of a background, when you kind of understand more about the game and you get to hear the story behind it and all the little nuances, it kind of brings more life to that game, in my opinion, and just really kind of fleshes it out.
Absolutely, no, it's true. It is, and making games is tough. I mean, I know but yeah, it's such a learning process too. And it's not it's such a strange sort of thing. It's like you really just have to kind of go out there to start making games, and sometimes it takes you to make a lot of games that aren't even successful before you find what really works. And it's constantly changing. There really is no formula to success. Everyone's oh yeah, free to play is the way to go and stuff, and that's true for a while there. It was looking at, and it certainly is a viable platform. But if you look at the cost of acquisition now in terms of what it takes to get someone to even install your game, you've got to, you have to really be getting a huge amount of conversions and getting people willing to actually spend money on your game. And at that point, they've already got your game. So it's interesting how it has gone. I get emails all the time from these companies like saying, yes, we'll get people to install your game for 70 cents a game. So you're like, oh my God, you're kidding me. It's like, that's insane. That's so much money. I'd have to spend, what, I mean, yeah, just $1,000 what they give me, a few hundred installs. It's just not that, it's just not a good deal. So yeah, it's really brutal out there in terms of just what it takes to get noticed, and but it's exciting too. Again, it's like, I'm so glad it's like this rather than how it used to be, right? Where essentially it was either like when I first started back in 2000. I was starting out doing music for games. I originally was wanting to do film music, and so I kind of come from a music background, really. But eventually, I started realizing that it was like, okay, so I started in the Half-Life mod community and a lot of that stuff going on. And this is back when Day of Defeat was new, and Counter-Strike was in its heyday, and
Right.
all these games were going on, Natural Selection and others. And so yeah, there was a really thriving sort of, if indie community before it was indie, because at that time it was basically all amateur, because there was no way to monetize any of that. Those
Right.
games were basically all made for free, but it was because people loved doing it, and they they had the tools to be able to do it, and it was actually the bar of entry was not that high because you didn't have to worry about publishing and all that. So I did a lot of these projects, and I started out doing music for those because I lived in Nashville at the time, and there wasn't a whole lot of film stuff going on there. Right? It's not like Hollywood or anything. So it was slim picking. So games became an opportunity where I could actually work with people anywhere in the world, and of course with mod community. So yeah, so it's just interesting how back then it was basically go retail or go home. So that's what I had to do. Is like we had to work on a game that eventually I basically made my own game and came up with an idea, and I pitched it to my friends that I've been working with as a musician, saying, hey guys, we've joined all these other projects, and they keep folding, right? Because whoever was in charge would get an idea for a game and a vision, but then they'd kind of flake out and leave the rest of us high and dry. And after a while, after this happened a few times, I started realizing, I was like, if I'm ever going to make music for a game that actually is heard by anybody, I'm going to have to make my own game. And so it took a matter of me learning how to sort of do game design and sort of teach myself that stuff, and then work with programmers and modelers and level designers and all that stuff to try and pull something together. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started, and that's back in 2002. And again, that's iPhone came out 2007, and that was even before the App Store came along. So
Right.
it's just amazing how different the landscape has changed. And again, back then, I had to fly out to California and go to E3 and actually talk to producers and at like IDOS and other publishers to pitch our game essentially. And we actually had some interest in that stuff, but it was ultimately the game we were working on called Dark Summer, which is something I still plan on coming back and making at some point, but. The whole point was that they wanted us to make it for PlayStation 2, and I was like, oh crap, we don't even have. Oh man, that's like completely outside of our skill sets. So we had to basically respectfully decline that. But it was kind of exciting at least to think, hey, they were interested, But yeah, so so again, this idea that back then, man, it was like you got to go big or go home. We were looking at a budget of like $500,000, and that was I was like, hiring a team over a course of a year, just to pay everybody like $40,000. It wasn't even. Yeah, it just all added up. Licensing for engines and everything else that was involved. So yeah, so it was something else. So it's amazing how it's changed to what it is today, where one person can come up with a great idea, and like you look at a Flappy Bird or whatever, it's like anything's possible now.
Yeah.
Hey, and that's what we love about the Ouya, right?
Right, exactly. No, it's fantastic, and I love to see it. It's so exciting to see the new games are constantly coming out. It's like it really is great, and. Yeah, I didn't back the Ouya at the time. I was just too much of a skeptic to be willing to fork out $100 at the time to say these guys get sued and never even produce a product. But as soon as it went and as soon as it went retail, I really wanted to order it through retail channels because I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see it be something that could be bought. Because I've always thought the concept of it was great and all of that. And so for me, when I got mine, I fell in love with it instantly. There's no looking back. And I mean, I don't know. Anybody who's critical, I was just like, you know what? I swear, these people just get kicked in the nuts sometimes for just saying the things that they say. I'm like, these guys are, especially the indies, right, who are going to badmouth the Ouya. I'm like, come on, dude. These guys are basically in a world of consoles that will not give everyone a fair shot. I mean, sure, they work with indies. I'm not saying that the other big guys don't. I mean, they certainly give small companies a chance, but. The Ouya is like the perfect breeding ground for just building, games and getting that experience and cutting your teeth, right? To move up to maybe some of the bigger players and stuff. But it's, you know, look at like you know, was it the Ascension? Oh, what's what's the big one on the Ouya?
Towerfall.
Towerfall. The new one's called Ascent, right? The Towerfall Ascent.
Ascension, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying. I was like, we're gonna get Ascension from. Yeah, Towerfall is a good example. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at how big it was. I mean, you know, sure, it didn't necessarily do as well as it did maybe on some of the other platforms, but it was a great way to get started. You know, in a space that otherwise may have. Because look at Greenlight and stuff for Steam. You know, it still comes down to kind of who you know. I think in terms of getting into Steam and really making something that's, you know, obviously really good too. But I just love the fact that Ouya doesn't tell me, you know, basically, you know, you can't publish this. You know, it's you know, they have their review process, but it's mostly for, obviously, I mean, other than inappropriateness and stability,
Right.
your game is going to go live. You know?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Caleb, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. Where can people find out of you on Twitter or on your website?
Sure. I mean, basically, if you go to at Part 12 Studios is our Twitter. You know, we're on Facebook.com/Part12 Studios, and then Part12Studios.com. So you really can't miss us. That's pretty much what we use for all the tags. And then, you know, and again for information about Be Active and Road Defender are there. And then there's RoadDefender.com is for that game as well as, and let's see what else. There's Facebook/Road Defender, and we're on Tumblr as well. Tumblr.Part12Studios is another one. So you can pretty much reach us any way you want. And yeah, so again, thank you guys for having me on here. This has been a blast. I love having the chance to do this stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it when you know, we can get a developer on here, especially you know, I know how it is, and you know, you got a schedule to keep, and you got, you know, your own personal you know, life to attend to. So it's really awesome when you can take time away from all that to, you know, give us an hour out of your day. So we really appreciate it as well.
Awesome. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And that's it for this week. You can contact us on Twitter at Ouya Central TV and at Ouya Brew. Thanks for listening. Catch us next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Peace.
See ya.